going and put all right, want me to start? So welcome to your first success session of your final year with Blue Water Middle College. So this year you actually have 3. And this first one, sorry, a few more people are lagging. This first one is about kind of what's right in front of you, which is college applications, and then just kind of being ready for finishing up your degree and kind of preparing the first steps for your next steps after middle college.
Okay, so for the agenda today, like we just talked about, we're going to go ahead and look at the fact that we're going to talk about the high school diploma, any last minute like requirements you may have. You should have been sent that information over the summer. I know you received it, I should say that, by Ms. Weimer. She did an audit this summer for high school graduation and for college graduation. So if at some point, just so you know, if you get to the point where you're like, I can't remember what I need for my degree completion, and you want to go over that, you can review that audit or talk to Ms. Weimer and she'll be able to get that for you. We'll talk about transferable credits and things that you should do to check to make sure that you're on track. Certificates, that type of stuff. We'll be looking at the things that you should be doing for your next steps to make sure you get into college applications. We'll have a lot of different sites that you can go and look at that. We'll even do a sample application for those of you that haven't done one yet. And then we'll look at making sure that you guys are in good standing for getting your transcripts sent over. Everyone should have received a parchment email from Mr. Ruiz earlier today, and Ms. Weimer will go through and teach you about that in just a little bit. Go on to the next one. Oh, perfect. Okay. So these are some dates in case you haven't looked at the dates posted on the calendar at SE4. The early alert grades are going to be posted next Monday or due by your instructors by Monday at noon. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to turn them in on time. I know it's kind of funny that they have deadlines for you guys, but they don't always adhere to them themselves. But when we do get the reports, we will be making phone calls either Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon with those grades. And the same standard as always, if it's a U or anything less than a C, we'll be contacting you and your parents as well. So registration does begin on November 1st. And like the years past, SE4 will make the classes viewable for registration 1 week at minimum prior to that, but they do try for 2 weeks in advance. So looking at the dates, Ms. Weimer, do you have a calendar in front of you that you can give that things that are viewable? Oops. You can look at that date for me. Whoops, where'd it go?
I was just trying to get the bar up to unmute myself. What did you say?
For the calendar, if you can show, or if you can look up real quick what the date is when classes are going to be viewable, then we can let them know real quick for registration opening on the 1st, but when they're actually be able to see the classes.
Yeah, so I mean, the week before would be October 25th.
Okay, so no later than that, possibly the Monday prior to that. Looking at the success session for Paying for College, there is a time where you can go in and the director of financial aid at SE4 is going to be doing that session. So she is a wealth of knowledge, a great resource for you guys to come bring your parents if they want to be a part of it, because obviously their financial information is going to be what is being used to make you eligible and fill out the FAFSA. A lot of colleges say that if you're going to receive any aid, you have to have a FAFSA on file. So it's something that we always encourage everyone to do. But make sure that you put this down on your calendar so that you can get that assistance. And that doesn't mean, however, that if you want to do an individual meeting, you can definitely contact SE4 financial aid and they can walk through things individually with you, but encourage everyone to go to this because having your questions answered there is going to probably save you time later on. So high school graduation, Ms. Weimer is going to talk about this one.
No, I'm just going to chime in real quick because I'm kind of the one that tracks this last requirement. So there were only a couple of people that had some credit left to complete aside from this very last thing. And those people we've already been in contact with. But so for everyone else, for all middle college students in the whole state, you do have to complete a math related class in your final year of high school. So we have talked about this a lot through the years, but your final year is this 13th year. So yes, you already did your 4 credits. You had to finish your 4th credit in order to be able to march in your graduation at your home high school, or just you may have already done it anyway. But this is on top of that. So this is from the state that says you must have something math related in your final year. I'm going to be going through and kind of checking in with the people that have it and just kind of let you know you're good. As long as you pass what you're taking, then you're fine. I'll let you know what that class is, because there are some people that are in a math related class that's like their science classes that count for that, like astronomy or chemistry or physics, things like that. If you're not registered, I will let you know kind of what your options are for the winter semester, but you do have to just take one either fall or winter semester and then complete it and pass it. So signing up and withdrawing won't count. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it with that. And then you would get all of this is to get your high school diploma in May at the end of the year. Fingers crossed, we'll be able to have a real graduation. We have just kind of a very informal thing. Separately from, you may also be getting your SE4 diploma with your associate degree. So sometimes you might be going to 2 next May, where the SE4 one is at the very end of the semester, and then ours is just a little bit later in May. That's where you get your actual diploma, and we just have a little ceremony that's fun. Kind of put a pin in it all. And I'll go back to Mrs. Barr's going to pick back up here.
Okay, so this year is pretty huge, and a lot of you are probably feeling the added pressure because you haven't yet until this point done a full schedule at SE4. And when you're looking at the layout that we've had for you up until this point, we have been essentially your 11th and 12th grade year would have been a traditional credit-wise, a traditional regular full year of a student attending SE4. You just spread it out over 2 years. And your 13th year is the traditional second year of earning your associate's degree. You're taking a full load of classes. You have to take a minimum of 10, but no more than 17. And you're looking at completing your degree. So we did just touch on the high school diploma, earning that, finishing up your associate's degree. And beginning the transfer, making sure that you're making smart choices, because your last semester, again, some of you are looking at transferable credits. You have all the requirements for the degree besides just earning that total 60 credit you need for your degree. And you just want to make sure that the classes you're taking are going to be the best choices for you, so that when you transfer to the next institution, you can kind of shave time off of your degree because you're taking classes that are going to apply for you. So next slide. Looking at what to expect and what we should need to do. So one of the things we want to stress is that overall, when we're looking at our data and our statistics for our students, is that we have at the end of our 13th year, about half of our students earning their degree, which is awesome. But, looking at the next year on, a lot of students are saying, well, why didn't everyone earn their degree? And there's various reasons. We'll talk about that in the next slide. But after the 13th year is over, we have some people that do some things, and we'll talk about how to do that. So we end up with a 2/3 completion rate for our degree. Not everyone needs to earn a degree when they're coming to SE4. You don't need an associate's degree to get a bachelor's degree, but life happens and things happen, and you don't always plan for it. And everyone probably knows somebody that went to college and earned a bunch of credits, but they don't have it in a collective degree. And so that means a lot to have at least that degree earned. So we're going to definitely, try to help you, and we need you to communicate with us if you have questions on how to accomplish that. So next slide.
Pretty much.
So why do people not earn? Pardon me?
That was pretty much what you just said.
Okay.
What's on this aside from the last thing?
Yes. So changing the degree. Some of you have, when you first started with SE4, you took classes and you had the intention of going into a specific program. And then when you started taking classes for that degree, you changed your mind for whatever reason, and that's totally fine. But because you are now going for a different degree, and the applied degrees at SE4 are very specific and they don't have a lot of leeway to make changes, then you might be behind and you might have to continue on at SE4 or look at taking classes in another institution and transferring back, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Looking at credits and making sure that they transfer for you, but looking at most of do not earn a degree on time because they have not passed a class or withdrawn from that. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that specifically so we can avoid that, making sure that you guys are set up for success. So withdrawing, if you've done it in the past, we're just reintegrating the issues or the policy. But if you've never done it, because this is a full load for you at SE4, something you're not necessarily used to based on years prior, we want to make sure everyone understands the consequences and the procedures. So if you were to withdraw from more than one class, or you haven't scheduled properly and you've always kind of taken the bare minimum, dropping a class could actually put you behind in your degree plan. So it's really important that you always know what it is that you are needing for your degree and what classes you're taking to make sure that they are appropriate and what it'll mean if you drop out of something. So if you are looking at not completing on time, that's obviously going to be a costly mistake, because if you have to retake it either on your own at SC4 afterwards, when you're not having Blue Water Middle College pay for it, that's an expense. But if you decide to go on to a four-year institution or another institution that has a higher rate of college credit tuition, then it's going to be a lot more expensive. So at SC4, we're pretty low. When it comes to universities, about $300-400 usually on average lower. So it's important to always keep that in mind. On your college transcript, if you do decide to drop a class, it isn't just like totally like void. It does show up. It shows up as a W. We always tell you that it's better to withdraw from a class than it is to receive an E. If you know you're going to fail a class, talk to us about it, and we can go over your options. But a W is still on your transcript. It still shows up when you send your transcript to another institution for admissions or for scholarships or anything like that, that you attempted the class, but you did not successfully complete it. Financial aid could be affected if you withdraw multiple times. If you don't have a 2/3 completion rate in your overall attempted classes, then the federal government could look at it and say that you're not eligible for financial aid until you're able to get it up to a 2/3 completion rate. And we can look at that with you if you want to contact us, and we can talk about those things for you. So the last one is really that there's going to be challenges in life, and there's going to be times where it's going to be a learning, important learning tool for you. And if you come and talk to us and it's maybe a problem with a teacher and it's a teaching style versus a learning style and you're having difficulty, there's options. Maybe you haven't had been needing tutoring services in the past, but it just depends on the class, the student, and also the instructor. So let us know what you're doing so that we can help you. We can make sure that you have overcome this challenge, so it's going to be a benefit for you. So for our procedure for the withdrawing, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So if you get to the withdrawal form, it is not something that is like, you just say you want to do it and you end up leaving. So if the withdrawal form is something that you want to see, you have to contact us. It's not anywhere else except for being sent from us. Looking at the withdrawal form, there are many steps. We have to have this before we can actually drop you from your class. Is there another point, Ms. Weimer?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you. So the form is a one-page, it's two-sided, and it goes through all of these steps. And what we're going to ask you to do is obviously complete it and turn it into us, and then we'll evaluate it. But the steps are going to be, have you contacted us? Are you going to be going to tutoring? Are you going to receive any communication, or have you attempted to work with an instructor? All of these different things. If we get to a situation and we have students that are not able to do this, then we talk to them about what can still be done to pass the class. This is going to be a conversation with your parent. This cannot be done without them knowing, because ultimately you are still a high school student. We are a high school, even though you're taking college classes, and your parents are going to be notified of it. So if they don't have permission given to you, then it isn't something that we're going to be able to do. We're going to talk to you about the consequences. So if you have already withdrawn from a class more than once, then we actually limit you in future semesters. So if you are going to withdraw from a class this semester and you've done it once before, next semester, your final semester at SC4, we do not let you take the full SC4 or at Blue Water Middle College up to 17 credits, because we don't want you to dig yourself into a hole where it's hard to get out of. If we see that there's a trend that you're not successful, and we're also taking into consideration too failing grades. So if you have been getting E's and your GPA is really low, we don't want it to be something where you continue again to dig yourself that hole and then ultimately leave us with very few credits. And then you have that 2/3 completion rate that's too low and you're not able to get financial aid after you leave. So we'll have that conversation, but everyone's situation is different. So contact one of us on staff and we'll be happy to work with you and go through the process with you individually. So achieving current goals, we cannot stress enough that we want you to talk to an SC4 advisor. Ms. Weimer has always said that she will work with you when it comes to your SE4 audit when you're looking at earning your degree. And she again sent those to you over the summer. And you may or may not have changed your fall schedule. So it could be a little bit different depending on what you've done in the last few months before registration. But checking with an advisor at SE4 is always something you should do, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to be issuing you the associate's degree and making sure that you can earn that and do it on time. So if you haven't already done so in the past, please do that meeting this semester, just so you can have a good plan and you can talk to them about where you want to go. But if you wanted to make it in person, you can go to the Welcome Center to do that. You can make the appointment online, as you can see the advising email right there at the bottom, or you can make a phone call to make that appointment. Okay, so complete your degree, make sure we're doing it on time. We have to be informed. You can take classes if you are in a situation where you're not going to get it done by winter 2022. You can take summer classes. SE4 has their academic calendar year go fall, winter, and summer. So if you were to take a summer class, which would be the summer 2022, actually, I should say, then it would actually be something we can still go to graduation in May, as long as you are planning on earning the rest of your credits throughout the summer. They'll let you walk, let you be a part of graduation and all of that. So that's really awesome. One of the things that not a lot of students know about is that you can actually reverse transfer credit back. So if you were close to earning your degree and say that you were just short credits and you went away to Central, I'm going to use that as my example because that's where I attended after SE4. I could go to Central, I could finish up the requirements at Central, and then once I have that official transcript completed from whatever semester I finished the requirements, I could send it back to SE4 and do an official transcript and then ask for receiving my associate's degree. They would evaluate it and then send it to me as being a completer. So that is something that you can do. There are options, and that kind of goes back to that statistic that we had several slides ago about how half of them complete on time. But then over the years, more and more complete because several of them use this option as a way to do that. So like I said before, associate's degrees do have value. They're more important than just taking a lump of credits, having that credential in your back pocket so that you have for applications and job opportunities. That is really important to do that. And because life happens and you don't always necessarily get to a bachelor's degree as quickly as you had planned.
All right, so this complicated maze is where I take over. So there was one more question in the chat that I didn't get to, Mrs. Barr, and it was basically, there were a few questions that the chat shows up on the recording. So I'm not ignoring you if you ask me a question in the chat. Either Mrs. Barr will answer and it won't show up on this recording, or I can answer you later. Just stick around after this is over. So this maze is just a I kind of always joke this, the college application, the whole college going process, financial aid process is still unnecessarily complicated, in my opinion. I think in a lot of people's opinion, there are just a lot of moving parts, but hopefully we'll clarify some of this stuff for you, but it is an important year that you're going into. So kind of the first step, and some people are already at this point, but the first step is just to identify which colleges you want to attend or you want to transfer to. And a lot of times in this whole process, when we're talking about colleges, it might not be a college. It could be a trade school. It could be an apprenticeship. It could be military. But a lot of the steps are going to be different. Well, depending on where you're going, they could be very different or it could be fairly similar. But for the college going process, this is mainly the steps. If you're thinking about one of those other paths, you would want to talk to one of us and we can help you navigate that. The stuff out on the internet, there's just not as much resource out there to access, but there is the information. We just have to do a little bit more digging. So identifying the college you want to go to is first step. Does it help you achieve your goal? And mainly that question is, do they have the degree that you want to pursue? So sometimes people want to pursue something. There's a certain college they want to go to. It's not the exact degree, but you may be able to find something similar enough that could work. But sometimes you're going to do something very specific where that college doesn't have it. So you really do have to pay attention to what degrees they offer there. You should be considering other criteria. Sometimes you've just gone on a visit and fallen in love with the place, and maybe you never wanted to go to a big school, but you go somewhere and love it. But most of the time, you kind of have to narrow down your searches and visits along these questions of how far away do you want to be? How big of a school do you want to go to? How much can you afford for the cost? Whether it's private versus public usually impacts that cost. So all of those things are things that you need to keep in mind. All of this credit transfer stuff, the resources are out there on the internet. Probably the best place to start would be either with us or an SE4 advisor, where we can help you go through this stuff together. You can check what will transfer, but we have had a lot of people in the past do this by kind of going out and doing that research on their own online, and maybe making some wrong calls. So we want to make sure you're meeting at least with us, but preferably an SE4 advisor, and then we can help you make sure that that stuff will transfer. The next thing is, do you meet their criteria? So we're talking admissions standards, and the next slide kind of breaks that down. So this is on a PDF that I'm going to be sending you some other resources that we're just going to send out to everyone. But this kind of just breaks it down. A lot of the schools with COVID have gone to be test optional. So what that means is they won't look at your SAT score if you don't want them to. If you take it and it was good, it's worth sharing, because I think they will include it in their decision making if you want them to, but you don't have to. So this kind of breaks down GPA ranges. These are averages too. So this is also, I sometimes am reluctant to show people these kinds of charts, because you might have your heart set on Michigan State and you have a 3.2. It doesn't mean it's impossible to get in. It just means you're going to have to kind of supplement what you're telling them. So writing an awesome essay, having some awesome recommendation letters, having a great background in extracurricular stuff, or a story for kind of why you have that GPA. All those things can be a part of it. So they're looking at your GPA, they'll look at your test scores if you want them to, but you also have to kind of tell them the rest of the story too. So don't let these discourage you, but it can kind of give you an idea of what you're working with based on your data. The next thing, there's these other sites. I know we've talked about these kind of over and over, and you all know how to work the internet. So I'm going to be sending you kind of a whole big list of sites to explore. And it's just a matter of you kind of sitting down and doing the research. But if you want help navigating any of this, let us know. But there's so many resources out there. I know in the past, we've kind of tried to show you this stuff, but it's really pretty simple. I will show you a little bit of parchment, but just kind of how to navigate that for your transcript. But the rest of this stuff, if you're looking at colleges, probably the best place is just to go directly to that college website. But then these can help you kind of establish what colleges offer the program that you want to pursue. Deadlines for applying. So that's another big piece of it, is that each school has deadlines as far as they may have an early decision, early admission kind of deadline, which is usually November 1st or around then. And most of the time, if you apply by that deadline, you would hear before Christmas break, basically. So if you really are eager to find that out, that's kind of the first deadline to keep in mind for most schools. But again, they do vary, so you're going to want to check their website. Most of the time, you just apply through the college website, and I'll show you an example of one. They are pretty self-explanatory, but sometimes questions come up and we can answer those. Through the years, I've had students come in with their laptop or Chromebook and just sit and say, okay, I bookmarked all these places where I had a question, and most sites will let you do that, and I'll kind of show you that. The Common App site lets you apply to U of M that way. There's also some other private colleges that you can apply for there. If you're looking at schools out east, there's a lot that are on there. And I think, you can do basically one application and it would apply to multiple, but they would charge you the application fee for each school. Application fees are another thing to consider and look at. Some of them could be free, some of them could be kind of expensive, up to $100. So you know, it may be time to narrow down your list. If you have like 10 places you're thinking about, you might want to try to do some visits, check out their websites, talk to advisors, talk to friends, talk to family, and narrow that down before you start paying application fees to that many schools. Fee waivers are available if you're eligible. Basically, if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, you qualify for fee waivers. So let us know if you think you're eligible or if you want us to kind of investigate that, and we can show you how to do that. And then many schools have free application fees in October for Michigan College Month. And this is a list of them. This list actually are colleges that are always free. So any of these schools don't have an application fee at all. The next one is during Michigan College Month. There are some that have like codes. There's certain dates, like you can kind of see it's not just the whole month of October for everyone. Basically just Michigan State and Northern Michigan only just do the first week. So if you're thinking about applying to there, you could kind of get everything set. That's Friday, right? So you could get things set up this week and apply sometime in the next week to get that for free. But most of the time you have kind of the whole month of October. Okay, so applying. Once you're actually in the application, you apply as a freshman, not a transfer. That's usually kind of the first thing it asks you. You're choosing a whole different application. We've kind of talked about this through the years, but basically in order to be, well, colleges in Michigan prefer all middle college students across the state to apply as freshmen so that you're eligible for the freshman scholarships. There are scholarships that are specific to transfer students, but it's just not as much money. There's not as big of a pool of money. Mainly the merit scholarships that they're talking about are usually there's a grid of, if you have this GPA and this SAT score, you would get this amount of money. They are saying most schools that are SAT or test optional for admission are also test optional for that breakdown of kind of the scholarship stuff. So then it would be just truly based only on your GPA. In that case, your GPA is your middle college GPA because we are your official high school of record. So this is something to make sure that you're being extra careful about. We have had a few students through the past think, well, I'm going to send my Northern transcript because that's better. That doesn't have my college classes on it. And I didn't do as well at the college as I did at the high school. And it always stings them. I had a student that only submitted their only submitted their like high school transcript where they went for their home high school classes. In this case, it was Port Huron High, and was eligible for a scholarship that he actually wasn't eligible for, because when they needed his actual official high school transcript with a graduation date, that was our transcript, and it ended up he got like a lower level scholarship. So I know that it kind of stinks, but you did take on these college classes. That is the benefit. And that's just how middle college transcripts work, is that both your high school and your college stuff is on there. Following directions, just following the steps really carefully, making sure you answer everything is really important. Keeping records, write down usernames and passwords or save them. Save your emails. I would say like in your inbox, you may want to just make a folder that's colleges or things like that. However you want to name it, but making sure that you're paying attention. That's kind of, I think, the next slide and the next steps is that once you apply, well, there's transcripts and stuff. So basically admissions people will be reaching out to you if you're missing anything or if they have any questions about anything. Saving these emails and making sure you're staying on top of them is really super important. So you send your applications, you submit, everything's great. And then they're going to tell you, okay, we need your high school transcript. Again, that's from Blue Water Middle College. We use Parchment for the online transcripts, for electronic transcripts. I think most colleges, like everyone uses that. If not, sometimes they have their own platform that they use, but every college will take them for the most part. So that would have your high school GPA on it. Usually that's going to be, they're going to ask you that when you're filling out the application. So if you need a copy of your high school transcript in order to answer these questions when you're filling out the application, you can do that right away on parchment. And I think the next thing is just kind of show you how to navigate that. So you should have gotten an email from Parchment with an invitation to set up an account. So unfortunately, I was going to try to have Mr. Ruiz set me up with kind of like a fake account to show you from the start. But it should say, go to this site, and it gives you a code that you enter, and then it's going to know your name. That was sent to your SE4 email address, and that's where all of this communication will take place. So check there. If you don't have it, let us know. If you have trouble getting it set up, let me know. I can usually talk you through it like over the phone, or we could do an individual Zoom if that's easier, or you can pop in the office and any one of us can help you. So it is pretty easy, but there's a couple things that seem like sometimes people get tripped up on, but mainly you just kind of follow the directions. So then once you're in, your profile will look something like this. You can choose different schools to add to like where you're interested, where you're applying. It gives you kind of your admissions chances based on your GPA and your SAT score. Sorry, just letting new people in. So that's kind of fun. Like sometimes people will add like Harvard just to see their chances might look better than they're expecting or worse. Here's one, let's do that. Yeah, so Mr. Ruiz's chances were red for Harvard, which is probably for most of us. But so that's something that's kind of interesting. You can do some college searches on here. You can look through things. I think it's an okay tool, but there are better tools that I'll be sharing with you. The main thing is once you're in, to order your transcript is very simple. You go to this and click order. Oh, geez, it's going to make me re-enter stuff. Okay, so where would you like to send it? Let's say Eastern Michigan. Usually stuff will pop up. So you can kind of scroll. Usually your first option is your best option, Eastern Michigan. You would select that. It will then say, okay, we're sending this from Blue Water Middle College to Eastern. There is a total listed here, but this is free for you until I think like 3 or 6 months after you're done. So I'm not going to go through with this because it will actually like make us pay money. And this is a kind of useful thing, I guess, to think about for later, because I think it'll charge you after your 13th year is over, like probably after like a year from now. If you are ever in need of your transcript in the future, you can just email us and call us or whatever the case, pop in the office, and we can usually like mail it for free. So we're going to cancel that, but that's how you would do that. It's pretty self-explanatory, but goodness. Okay, so back here, so that is how you request your high school transcript. When you're applying, so during the admissions process, they're looking at your high school record. They're looking at your high school GPA, your SAT scores if you share them. Your high school stuff does have your college stuff on there, but that's what they're looking at in order to make the admission decision. So most of the time, some schools don't even really care to see your college transcript at this point. They might say, have you taken college classes? And you would say yes. And then they would say, okay, well, send us your SE or your college transcript. So that is your SE4 transcript. So again, they might need it during admissions, but they might not. If they ask for it, then they want it. When they will definitely want your college transcript is next June, basically May, June. Once you have officially finished that SE4, they're going to want your final transcript in order to find out how your credits will transfer. That's when they do the actual credit transfer evaluation. So you may have to send this twice. You would order that online at this site, which will be included in the email I send you. It is $5 each transcript. So you could order one to look at yourself, but I would just send it to where you need to send it. There's not really a way around this. That's the only way that they send them electronically. But a lot of times we do get kids in the spring asking like, well, they're saying they never got my transcript. And we're kind of back and forth like, well, I sent it, it's in parchment. I can see that it was sent. I can see that they got it. You have to really pay attention to what they're asking for. So a lot of times they're asking for your college transcript, not your high school. So just again, kind of, you just have to be mindful and pay attention to what you're doing. So that is, you'll have to send it in June. So this is the piece about making sure that you're staying in touch, answering when they contact you from the colleges. The admissions people will email, they'll call. I've heard of them texting with people, and that's where they're going to say like, hey, we have your application, but I don't have your high school transcript yet. Or they might ask you if something is missing, or I don't know that. I know that they ask other stuff, but that is just where you really want to pay attention to your email and make sure that you're answering any questions they have. Also make sure that you're keeping your emails professional and formal. If you need help with that, let us know. But just try not to be too familiar with the admissions people and keep it professional. Essays are kind of a thing that people have they're more scared of than it needs to be, because most places don't really require them. There are some colleges that do, but I would say that it's headed towards the majority do not. If you're applying to like a highly selective university, like basically Michigan or Ivy League stuff, then this is a whole different ballgame where these essays are really super important, and they do. That's a big part of the decision. But most of the time, they're just looking for, it might be something that you can do an essay. If it's optional, I would suggest doing it depending on kind of where you fall with your GPA and your test scores as far as like what their averages are. But this is where you really need to tell your story, what makes you unique. Mentioning your middle college experience is a good thing, but a lot of the in-state schools are going to have a lot of middle college students applying and going there. So it's not going to make you 100% perfectly unique. So you do also have to tell your story in the middle college. I have been to some workshops at U of M, and they like about the college applications. And they've said, and I'm sure this kind of goes for most places, like a lot of their essays start of like, well, I decided I wanted to come to Michigan when I came to my first football game at the Big House. And the people that were giving the thing were like, well, yeah, duh, everybody does when they go to one of those. So that does not make you unique. That makes you actually one of the masses. So trying to really think about like why that was special to you, that might be a different story, but just kind of saying like, I like Michigan football probably isn't the reason that you're going to get in there. Get your essays proofread by a bunch of people. So we're all happy to review those. I'm sure your high school counselors would still be happy to help, your parents, instructors, anybody that you can think of that could help, that it's worth running it by. And yeah, we can let you know like, oh, well, this is kind of cliche, or yes, this is a great story. Tell a little bit more about this. So I'd be happy to help with that. After you're accepted is when you start the whole financial aid stuff. So the FAFSA is the main thing. Even if you think you're not going to be eligible for financial aid, like scholarships or even loans, I do hear sometimes people like, well, my family makes too much money. But there are some scholarships that you can get at the four-year schools, like those merit scholarships, but they need you to do the FAFSA, whether you have the actual like need for the financial aid or not. You qualify just with your GPA and your SAT scores. So everyone should complete the FAFSA unless you're, independently wealthy, and then I guess you'll just pay for it or whatever, your parents will pay for it. But most of us are not. So complete the FAFSA, see what's out there. The FAFSA does open October 1st. This or the Paying for College Success session is where actually Joe Kassar, who's the financial aid director for SE4, gives that presentation. She's awesome. She explains just kind of the different types of aid, the whole process, specific stuff on the FAFSA. And I have always found it to be so interesting. I've actually learned stuff about my own financial aid, mainly the mistakes I made through the year. So really go and have your parents come to that and listen well, because it's seriously one of the best presentations that you can get as far as like avoiding mistakes and making sure that you get the most money possible. This page here is another thing I'll be sending to you. Let's see. This is an awesome resource that has links to resources for kind of any step in the process. So if you're trying to figure out careers, there's stuff there. These are just kind of those like quizzes. I know we've kind of done this through the years to see what kind of careers would work based on your likes and interests. These Michigan, like state and local resources, are more about high need jobs in Michigan. The MichiganTalent.org will really talk about jobs that have like a good outlook, where there's a lot of jobs out there that they can't fill the positions. And so if you are completely undecided, this is a great place to look just to kind of get some ideas. Planning for college. So these sites are going to kind of walk you through the whole process, help with test scores. There's stuff about essays, writing. If you are going to if you're applying to a very highly selective university like Michigan or Ivy Leagues, come and talk to one of us. And that's kind of a whole other realm that there's a lot to talk about and explore. So, but there is a lot of information out here. Finding a college, these would kind of help you figure out, okay, so if you want to do this career, these are the colleges that can work for that. These have links to actual college visits. Most of the colleges also have that on their website. So if you can't get to a campus right now, they kind of put all that stuff out there online during COVID when they couldn't really give tours. And it's mostly still there. So you can really kind of see what campus is like on those. But it really is not the same as just going to a campus. So if you can, set up an actual official visit where you and your parents go, you walk around, you have a tour guide explain stuff, talk about things specific to like your plan of what you want to major in there. Those are really the best. But even if you can't set that up and you can only go on a weekend or something while they're not doing that, just getting out and walking around a campus makes a huge difference in kind of letting you know what you want. This is about cost and applying for financial aid. These are more financial aid scholarship searches. These are really helpful. We'll also, when we talk about the paying for college thing, I'll give you some links to some local resources, like the Community Foundation has a scholarship kind of network where you do one application and it applies you to everything that you're eligible for. SE4 has a page, and I'm sure we'll look at that, but we'll kind of link that to you. Most of those things are not open, like scholarship applications aren't usually open until right around the first of the year. They always shoot to get it open by Christmas break, which is ideal because that's when you kind of have some extra time to look at it. But a lot of the actual scholarship searches and applications don't really happen until kind of January or just shortly after. Calculating costs is helpful for like figuring out, okay, when you get your financial aid award letters, which is another thing you'll learn about at the Paying for College session, that these are good resources to kind of compare what your offers are. And then this has like some savings stuff. This is tax credits for once you're in college, how you go about getting credits for that, or basically your parents will. So this is really super handy. I'm going to send this to you. And another thing that would be handy right now is the Blue Water College Access Network has a few different webinars going on this fall. The first one is Thursday, and it's about senior year planning. This probably is going to be kind of similar to this, but they may get a little bit deeper into the college and career like research. So if you still are kind of undecided on that, that might be good to hit. They are going to do, if you're interested in trades and apprenticeships, they do a really good job of kind of explaining how to navigate that process. They will do their own FAFSA completion workshop. This is going to be pretty specific to that. I think if you feel comfortable, you could do this and just kind of do the FAFSA workshop for help on it. But I would, if you have to decide between one or the other, I would really come to ours on the 5th, where it's going to really explain the whole process altogether. And then if you're interested in a nursing career, that's always a good thing too, where I know that not everybody that's interested in nursing was trying to stay at the SE4 program. So this would be like if you were going to transfer on, it'll talk about different specialties, which is cool. You can register by this barcode thing and QR code. It'll bring up the website. They do $500 scholarship giveaways, and it says just 11th and 12th grade students, but I'm pretty sure that you guys are eligible as 13th year students because they count you as actual high school students. So if any of those are interesting, I know they do a good job with it, and if it's relevant to you, it would be really helpful. Okay, so we're going to just take a quick look at an application, and we're just using Western for an example. So I just Googled apply to WMU, and that's our first thing. So you can pretty much go to the site, click apply. It's usually right up top. We're very handy to find. But this is where you would figure, or you would start your application. So this is very specific. Apply as a freshman. The application deadlines are here. So this is where I was kind of talking about. It'll tell you the early action. So this one isn't actually until December. But again, the earlier you apply, the earlier that you hear. So we would just click apply as a freshman. Usually it will ask you the difference, whether you're applying as a freshman or a transfer, and apply for first year. And it will make you set up an account. So here's where you can, and Western's linked into the Common App, which is interesting. So you would just set up a password here, use your email that's going to follow you. So this is where I would use like whatever personal one you have, Gmail or whatever. So you would set up your account. Let's see, we'll create an account. So this is where it is asking you, which are you? You are a first year student. And we would put in, I'm going to just use this. So you would put in your email. This is not what you're going to use. You're going to use your personal one, but let's say your email and password. Jeez. I don't know if this is helpful. You all kind of probably know how to navigate the internet, but we'll just see what the first things it asks us. So this is probably going to be like too much stuff. Okay, yeah. So you can kind of see that this is, you just kind of answer the questions. We're going to add, yeah, so this is just going to take too long. But so answer these questions. You would be planning to start in 2022. And it's going to kind of check you through different pages. Yeah, sorry. I don't know, Mrs. Barr, what do you think? Should I get into it more? Like do the whole deal?
No, I think the Common App is kind of its own animal. And just just looking at the Common App and specifically, you are going to have a section where you have to put in a high school advisor, and that's where we come in. So it's either Ms. Weimer or I can help you do that, whichever one you prefer. But once you put us down, then we're going to be getting a notification from Common App letting us know that we are the person that you have elected to be your school representative, and there's some paperwork that we would have to fill out. There's a whole school profile we have to upload, and then we have to do some different documents for you, like load up your transcript, anything else that they require. Every school is different, and we'll always be notified of those things in addition to you being notified. So if there's a deadline coming up, we'll be aware of it. We'll be getting notifications from the Common App site to let us know that. So different schools that use Common App, I wasn't aware.
I know, I didn't know,
you
and
were.
so Central does too. But it
Okay.
looks like you can set up just a regular application there too.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it's
So
just,
Michigan uses it. We know that. That's one of the ones that we always would have. But if you're going to go to other ones and you have another application you want to proceed, they're relatively easy, but I'll let Ms. Weimer continue.
yeah, it was just gonna be more detail and then it was gonna take me a long time to enter that stuff to give you any kind of sense of like how to navigate it. But they are pretty easy to navigate, and that's kind of awesome. Like if you're thinking about a few places in state, it looks like more schools are using Common App, so that could be helpful to do that and apply to several at once.
Yes, because that's the benefit of the Common App, is that you can get multiple colleges in there. You're not doing individual ones for each state. It just helps you out get the information out there.
Awesome. And I think this is you now.
Yes, so I'm going to take over and last few slides. We are going to talk about grades and transcripts, making sure that everyone is going to be finishing strong, because like we talked before, you're essentially doubling the amount of classes that you've taken at SC4 up to this point in your final year. So the first slide that we have in my section is grades and transcripts. Ms. Weimer to click on for me.
Sorry, totally forgot
No,
I
it's
was
okay.
the navigator here.
There
I was
we
just
go.
checking right out since I was done talking.
No, you're good. So college transcripts, like we said, are gonna be a good view of what you've done over the last 3 years. And it's just a paper account of you. So looking at your grades, it's super important, because it's not only going to show what you're capable of, but also your work ethic. And a lot of people, one of the things that we talked about when we first came into orientation is that being successful in college doesn't mean that you have to be smart. It's about working hard and putting in the time and making sure you're going to tutoring and getting your questions answered, making sure you talk to somebody if you have a question. So not only future college applications, but also looking at future employers. I know Ms. Weimer has a really good story about this. If you want to share, you always share this with orientation about the value of a good transcript, if you want to interject real quick.
Okay, about that I never thought I would be a teacher.
Yes.
Is that what? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So when I first transferred to Michigan State, and I struggled a little bit. I was always a very high achiever, and then I moved away and I was left to my own devices and did a lot of sleeping instead of going to class. So my transcript didn't start great, and I had a hard time pulling it up with my GPA. But I was kind of like, well, whatever, like kind of the time people were saying like your GPA doesn't really matter as long as you pass everything with a C and it counts and whatever. Well, it does, because then it was 10 years later that I now am in an industry where every job I ever apply for in education, I have to submit every transcript of every college I ever went to. So, and you would have told me at 18 that I would be in education, I obviously would have said you're crazy. So that's something like you never really kind of know where your path is going to take you. So even if you think your grades aren't really going to matter, and it's just kind of getting those classes done at the 4-year school and getting the degree, they do your employer. It's really more common as the years go that employers are asking for them, not just in education industry, but a lot of industries are going to look at it. So
yeah, and that's true. And that's, like she said, we just know about the education part, but we know that there's other people that want to see how successful and how serious you've been keeping them, and again, what you can do. So making sure that they are strong is super important for various reasons, and more years going on besides just applications and merit scholarships. So the next slide is talking about what our average returning students have. And again, going back to what you're coming into the semester with, you should have completed 6 to 10 college classes between 11th and 12th grade. Some of you are a little bit different if you are an unaffiliated student and you're coming in not having a partner high school that you were looking at. But this year, essentially, you're earning the second half of your degree. You have anywhere between 30 to 32 credits, some of you more, some of you are earning 34 if you're taking 17 semester, if you were a little bit behind this point. and that's totally fine. Usually when we're doing our data, we're looking at students being on average about a 3.0. So looking at what can be done if you are a student that has struggled in the past semesters, either as a junior or senior year. It's hard when you're looking at bringing your GPA up and being more competitive for those applications that we went through, all that information for admission requirements, the average that they have for the college that you're interested in. You can definitely do a lot of things to turn things around this semester. So we only are in 6 weeks into our semester, and we still have 10.5 weeks to go before the semester is over. And then we have all of the following semester to be successful. So looking at what that does for your GPA, it can be a huge turnaround. If you retake a class and you get a higher score, that would improve. There's different things that we can do to make sure or help you if you haven't already figured it out by talking to one of us to different things to improve your GPA. But it is possible because the more credits you have, the more it's going to be successful. So looking at the next slide, we have the C grade. We've talked about this so many times. We just need to reintegrate it to make sure that we're trying to get that as a minimum. We obviously want as high as grades as possible for your GPA and then also for your final transcript to make sure that it's as great as possible. But the C is what you need for it to transfer to most colleges. There are very, very few exceptions that will take less than a C. Some take a C minus, but that honestly is very few and far between. It's probably shouldn't have been mentioned, but it is something that is going to be also integrated with a lot of the degrees that SE4 has. If you are looking for the Associates in Arts or Associates in Science, and you want to check off one of your requirements for English, math, or science, or the humanities or social sciences, that is also built into it so that you can have them transfer as well as earn the degree. So why is that important? In addition to making sure that you're in the degree, as we talked about, having that credential in your pocket is super important. But what does that mean if you have to take the class because you earned a C minus or below and you do end up going away and you don't want to continue at SC4? You want to continue with keeping the ball rolling, looking at how much it costs here at SC4. So on average, SC4 is $171 per credit hour. So a 3-credit class would be about $513. But when you look at CMU and MSU, obviously the cost per credit is way higher. And you're looking at the overall expense of that class for the exact same class, for the exact same credit. It's so important that you look at the potential downfall if you don't do well. And so it's worth making sure that you put in the time now, that you meet with the instructor, that you meet with the advisor, that you talk to one of us so that we can assist you. I'm actually going to mention right now, I don't know if Mr. Stewart wants to take himself off of mute, but while he is on, I'm going to introduce a new staff member to you guys. Mr. Stewart is our new student success and retention advisor. And he is a great resource. If you haven't, as a 13th year student, been in the office and got a chance to meet him, he is a great resource too, to come in and help to get some different advising and to kind of talk about this. So Mr. Stewart, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, my name is Ryan Stewart. I started at the middle college in beginning of July. Before that, I was working at Virtual Academy. Then before that, I was a resident director at a small little college down in Texas. Got a lot of experience working with college and high school students, and I've done a lot with terrain, coaching, and all that type of thing. I've got a life coach certification that to help you with that capacity. Yeah,
I think we lost him.
But we lost him. Okay, no big deal. He'll come back. I know he will, and he'll maybe have a better connection. But one thing, again, like the bottom point, the difference between the C and the C minus is that it could cost you major money if we're not able to get to that point. So the next slide. All right, so getting help as soon as possible, like I stressed, it can be with the it could be with the instructor, it could be with one of us, it could be with the tutoring services. They do have tutoring services again this year. They have them through the Achievement Center. The Writing Center and the Math Center have been temporarily closed because of the fact that they're trying to consolidate all of their tutors. But you can go in and you can, or you can go online and make an appointment to see them. If you need some assistance, maybe at the end, Ms. Weimer, we can go up and pull that site up and we can kind of show how to make the tutoring appointment if you haven't yet done that. It's really easy. You can do it through Google Teams or Microsoft Teams, I'm sorry. And you can do that. They have specific tutors for most subjects taught at SC4, but if there's something that you need that's not being offered or there's a problem, let us know and we can help you. Knowing your syllabus is super important. We talked about this right when you guys had started back at orientation, that knowing what your class expectations are, what your teacher is expecting of you to get that passing grade, formats for papers and how they're going to be turned in, deadlines, different points or different how calculations of grades, if attendance is required, participation points, discussions, anything like that is something that you need to know so that you can be successful. Face-to-face is best if you have a face-to-face class, but I know a lot of you had chose to do online classes or you have at least one online class, and that's totally fine. They have to have at SC4 some conference hours built into their schedule, so they are required to respond to you. And I want to also say that instructors really want to see you succeed. I know that sometimes we don't look as instructors as people, and that's really a misconception. We have to really know that they're there to help you. They're in this profession to help you and see you succeed, and they're going to do what they can to do that. So letting them know that there's a problem, if there's anything health-wise going on with you, or if there's something that you're struggling with the concept, let them know, because if it isn't something they know about, then they can't help you fix it. I know one of the things that I've always said to students is, I can't fix a problem I don't know exists. So inform us so that we can assist you. Another way to communicate, make sure that, again, your syllabus, if the teacher prefers communication through Canvas, that type of thing, make sure that you take advantage of that. So, Mr. Stewart, we lost you for a second. If you want to join back in, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know what happened there.
You're cutting out a little bit. It sounds like
Yeah, we can't hear you. I don't know if it's
That's
just the
okay.
internet. Yeah,
it was a nice
Nah.
idea, but
yeah,
Thanks.
sorry. So the last thing that we're going to do that you guys are required to do is the EDP. You guys do this every single year. You have done it for most of your career as a student, and you specifically have been doing it since high school. So the EDP is a requirement for us, and even though you are not in a traditional high school setting anymore, you're taking college classes, again, you're still a high school student. We are a Blue Water Middle College High School. So you are required to do it. At the bottom is the link that you are going to have to go to and complete your EDP. It is in a Google form, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to complete and then turn into us. We have the site up here where we're going to show you.
let me just
When
kind of
you go
walk through it.
in, the basic information is up at the top. Pardon me?
Do you want me just to kind of walk through it since I'll be typing
Sure.
the answers or whatever? Okay,
Yep.
so there are several pages, but it's just kind of consolidating stuff that we've asked you in the past. So I'm going to enter these kind of quick, but mainly your name. This is where we do need your personal email address. So like your Gmail, whatever, that's where you're going to be reachable forever, because your SE or your high school email addresses have been shut down. So, and for a lot of cases, that was the only one that we had for you aside from your SE4 one. So give me a new nice email address there. This first bit is just kind of walking you through again where you're at with your degree. So just you would select what degree you're working on, how many credits are required for that, 60 or 62 usually. All of this stuff at the top are the resources to figure that stuff out, but these are also things we can answer questions for. So this would be something that you should hopefully know for yourself at this point, but definitely we can help with it. How many credits are you taking this semester? Let's say you're taking 15. And so you would have, let's say you had 30, now you have 15, you're going to have 15 left. So I just kind of want to see if you know where you stand, and it's okay if this isn't exact. This can be something though that you would want to look at that audit stuff that I sent you. For this particular, for arts, it's math 104, 113, or 120. Hard to type on the spot here with an audience. And then if this is just walking you through like, so have you taken that? So nope, I was waiting to take math 104 in my 13th year because Ms. Weimer told me 2 years ago about that whole final year math thing. And I don't want to take any more math than what I planned. Or maybe you did take math, and I'll give you some other options. I did English 101 last year, but I need to do the other one. So that's just kind of asking where you're at for your degree, as far as what you know, and then your math and English completion. If you have not taken any English and math and you are still working on placement, that's something that needs to happen quickly. And you may actually be a little bit behind if you haven't taken English 101, so you wouldn't be able to take them both this year. But there weren't very many people in that boat. So I think those people have been contacted, but if you are one of those people, let me know and I can answer any questions about that. So you would click on next to the next page. This is where we're looking for your info about what career are you planning to pursue. This slide, I think, says to list 3, and that was, I should have updated that because hopefully things are a little bit clearer for you at that point. This was based on I pulled some of this stuff from a previous year where we are looking when you're early into this for you to give us all their options that you're thinking about, and still do that if you're kind of weighing your options career-wise or college-wise or any other option. Tell us everything and we can kind of help you plan from there. But if you just know it's going to be one, I want to be an engineer and that's it. Maybe I don't know what kind, maybe I know like mechanical or chemical or something. And so yes, I will need a bachelor's degree for that. A bachelor's degree in engineering is what I'm going to need. So that one's pretty straightforward. Some people might be like thinking pre-med or something, and that's where you could do. Some schools have a pre-med, some schools just tell you to take bio. So those are things that you should kind of start researching and have an idea of if you don't yet. Okay, so this is asking what colleges are you thinking about transferring to? So I'm going to say MSU, Oakland, and GVSU. And then if your plan does not require more college, so this is kind of like if you're thinking trade school or military or apprenticeship, or I'm going to take a gap year and figure it out, or I have another semester's worth of stuff to finish at SE4. I got a little behind. This is where I want to know this answer. If you're transferring, you can just say I'm transferring. Next, this is just kind of the old questions that are on an EDP. So what pathway is your career plan in? That is on a slide that we will be sharing with you, but this is kind of showing you based on like different types of careers, what career pathway you're in. My little engineering example is pretty straightforward, that the engineering career is in the engineering pathway, but some you may have to look and you can give this your best guess. And if you're kind of like between a couple, you could put more than one. If you're thinking about if you have still where you're undecided and you're thinking about multiple careers, you can list everything there as well. So my example is engineering, your preferred learning style. I know you've talked about probably a long time ago, kind of have some idea here. I am a visual learner. At this point, you should have done most of these career planning activities we've been telling you to through the year. So you know you've come in and talked to one of us. You know you've seen an SE4 advisor because we've told you to do it once a year and you're in your final year. Some of you might have gotten in a college visit in that first year that you were with us when we were doing those before pre-COVID. You've definitely done college and career research in your college success class. Job shadows, I don't know, maybe you've done that. Hopefully at your high school, you did some resume stuff. Anything else you've done, you can kind of put in there, but just list whatever you've done. Here, talk about like your extracurricular stuff in high school or anything at the college. So let's say you did student council, band, hobbies, you like to read and biking, and my skills and abilities. They're looking for like professional things here, I think.
If you have anything like CPR training, or you have something like any certificates that you've earned, you can go ahead and you can put that down. If you've taken some college classes, like computer classes, and you've earned something, or if you've done tech and you have tech experiences and you've earned some certifications that way, make sure you put that down. Punctuality, any typing that you have, that would be great. You can put that down. Communication skills that you might have, you can always list those as well.
Great ideas. This long-term career and life goals would kind of picture this as like, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? This is kind of like that long-term thing of, I want to get my degree and move to a big city, or I'm going to go to college and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to work in town, or I want to have a family, or I want to travel. I want to make a lot of money, or I want a career that's fulfilling. I keep saying or, like those things are mutually exclusive, and they're not always. Maybe you'll find kind of that magic one that you can get all of that, but just kind of tell us where you're headed and what your goals are. And this doesn't have to be super long, like a sentence is great. And I'm actually just going to put a smiley face and let you say your own thing. So that's the whole deal. You hit submit. It's very easy, right? This will be easier than the paper copies that we were having you guys fill out last year during COVID. So yeah, this is just kind of more about those other pieces.
Those
Yeah.
are just further explanation of what we just went through. If you wanted
Yeah.
to look back on the review or the PowerPoint that's sent to you, you can always look at that if you want a quick reference instead of watching the video. So the last slide that we have for you guys is just a reminder information. You can do this. You guys are just getting your feet wet and getting started into the semester. This is beginning of week 6. We don't even have early alert grades yet, and it's going to be at the end of this week and early next week when they're posted. So you guys can do this. Let us know if there's a problem. There's tutoring services working with the instructor, working with us, so we can help you. Early alert grades do, like I said, come out next week. We probably will not be getting our final report until Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll start that contact. Please make sure if there's something going on, you can always contact us in advance so that we know that we don't have to contact you first. So please feel free to let us know. Registration does start on the 1st, which is that Monday. So like you asked, you can go ahead and have your classes put into your plan. Looking at the schedule, the classes will open up on October 25th at the earliest, but could be as early as the 18th. So make sure that you're looking at it, come up with a plan, look at things that you need for your degree in advance, put them out, the right instructors, but know too that there's a smaller window of registration for the winter semester compared to the fall semester, because fall opens in April and starts in the end of August. But for the winter semester, it opens in the beginning of November. It really is only open for 2 months. So the student body is going to be looking at things sooner. They're going to be registering for things quicker. So if there's something that you need, if you are going for an applied degree and you need to have a certain class to make sure that you're on task, do not wait till the 2nd week, the 3rd week, the 4th week to register for things. One of the things that I do is I monitor the registration. And if you're not registered by the 1st week, I'm going to be contacting you and I'm going to be like, what's wrong? What's going on? What do you need help with? You can set up meetings with us before registration actually opens. So if you have the need to talk to any one of us about where you stand with your degree and what we would suggest, then make sure that you contact us now. Like, we have a calendar that we can start scheduling out. And if you want to meet during the week of the 25th, the last week of October, so that things are going to be up and posted and have days and times and instructors listed, then set up that appointment and we can meet with you during that week. And there's 4 of us in the office and we can work with you on that. Make sure that if you can attend, that you go to the Friday, November 5th, Paying for College with Joe Kassar from the SE4 financial aid. She is the head of it. She has been doing it for years, and she just it's her job to know everything that needs to be done and to answer your questions successfully. So if you can make it to that, that would be a really beneficial opportunity for you and your parents. So with that, I will ask if Ms. Weimer has anything that she wants to add. Otherwise, if you guys want to stay on, we will be able to chat with you